This episode of the Better Every Shift podcast is sponsored by the Fire Store. Learn more about getting the gear you need at prices you can afford by visiting thefirestore.com.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Better Every Shift podcast. My name is Aaron Zamzo. I am a firefighter training officer in Madison, Wisconsin, and your host. Along with me in this very, very special episode is the editor-in-chief of Fire Rescue One, the captain of the ship, my editor for 15 years, who gives me the opportunity to be here. And this is a very special day. So welcome, Janelle Fusquette. Thank you, by the way, for 40 shows. Holy cow.
Thank you for 40 shows. You bring all the energy to this podcast. I love it. I love that we're at 40.
I'm surprised I made it this far. Just for those that are listening to us, and by the way, we greatly appreciate all the support. We now discovered that we have more than 2 listeners, your mom and my mom, and we actually have a brand new sponsor. We want to thank you to them. Send a thank you out to the Fire Store. Hopefully some more are going to be coming on board with that. So it's pretty crazy where this has evolved to. I'm going to actually set the table a little bit for a question to you. And for those that are listening, again, I can't say thank you enough. But this all started about 3 years ago when Janelle said, you're kind of crazy, Zam. Do you ever think about doing a podcast? And I said, sure, I would, but I don't want to be harnessed by, a particular platform or topic. And you said, great, I think I have some ideas. And a couple months goes by and here you came up, you drafted this whole thing. And here we are, 40 shows into it. Is it what you imagined it would be?
It's better. It really
Oh.
is. It's so good. I love talking to you every week. We have so much fun. And what's so great is being able to talk to all these fire service leaders. You have such amazing insights. I learned something from every single episode. I know I've said that before, but it's really true. Like, I'm taking mental notes just like the rest of you listening, trying to, better myself all the time as well. I mean, I may not be on shift per se, but better every day, better every work day, better every month, whatever it might be. It's just really inspiring. And I just so appreciate the energy and enthusiasm you bring to the show. And thank you so much, Aaron. I appreciate it. You're my partner in crime.
We are PICs. It has been a wonderful journey. Your motto has been better every sentence, I think, is probably a little more fitting. And, and I wanted to give a little bit more background just so people, in case they don't know about you, but you are really one of the cornerstones of media within the fire service. A lot of people don't know this, but you have been involved for almost, I want to say 20 years in writing through various different avenues. And the who's who of who Janelle knows and has worked with is very, very impressive, which is why we're getting these great guests, because it's not me that they're coming to talk to, but it's Janelle who's had these relationships. And I think it's really important just to highlight that a little bit. As we're going to talk on this 40th anniversary or this 40th podcast, we're going to talk about things that we learned, some things in review, and hopefully send you guys, the listeners, back in a little bit of a journey to go back and listen to some of the highlights. But I really do believe it's important that you all understand how pivotal Janelle has been in the fire service, and that there are some really great people behind the scenes that have just as much dedication and devotion as those in the front lines. And Janelle is one of them. I don't think she's worked 40 hours in a week in a long, long time. I'll get text messages at like 10 o'clock at night that says, hey, what do you think of this? Or how can we improve that? Or, I have an idea for you, or check your email. And it's not just me that she's sending that to. That's, everything from, Chief Sendelbach to, Chief Lieb to, Dr. Janke. I mean, she's got these contacts and she asks people for their input because, she knows the value that they bring, and her energy behind the scenes is a big reason why Fire Rescue One is really doing a great job and why this podcast has gone. So I really think it's important to highlight that. I know you're mad at me right now because that was
Mhm.
not on the script,
Yeah.
but you're used to it. It's happened 40 other times. But thank you from the bottom of my heart, and for those in the fire service that don't understand where your background is, now they do a little bit, which is why you're so pivotal in being here and making this thing happen.
Thank you. That's very nice of you. I very much appreciate the shout out. I just think I've been really lucky to work with some really amazing people throughout the years. And, being on the media side of the house just affords a lot of unique opportunities to get to meet a lot of amazing people and work with these partner organizations like the IAFC and FSRI and just all the good people out there doing so much good work. And I think I've just been really lucky to have made some really amazing friends and contacts throughout the years. But you're right that there's a lot of people that go into all of the projects that we do. By no means is this just you and me. There's a lot of people who help out as well. So big shout out to all the editors and the editorial board members and our contributors. So thank you all for making it so much fun to take this journey with you.
Sometimes fun, most times interesting. And I kind of threw that out there. I know I put you on the spot because you hate talking about yourself. But it brings me to a good point. One of the things and the themes I think that I'd like to at least kind of highlight is this first 40 shows was all about getting out of your comfort zone. I think that was one of the biggest themes. And I set that up with you because I know doing this podcast, talking about yourself and your accomplishments is, that's coming out of your comfort zone. From show one, where you're like, I don't really want to say a lot, to where we've come. Um, you know, uh, but that's what it's about, being better, um, and improving and finding ways to make an impact, right? We're about service. We're a service industry. Um, we the better we are, the better we serve, and the better we do our job. And that's been the theme all along, and that's where this whole thing started from. And then, of course, when you throw, well, how do you get better? Well, you get a little uncomfortable. You have an uncomfortable conversation.
Mhm.
That's how you grow, right? And so you've been doing that all along, and I think that was probably one of the biggest themes that I've seen. How about yourself? Like, what's the biggest thing that kind of, when you reflect these last 40 episodes, what really shines in your mind?
I think the idea of continuous improvement all the time, chipping away. We're never just going to be able to flip a switch and be a totally different leader or different person, a different boss, whatever it might be. Like we gotta work at it, no matter what it is, and just about I think almost every single guest we've had on the show has said some version of that in some capacity in whatever context we're talking about. But it's really about there's no end goal here. There's not like a destination with leadership. You don't just like become a leader and you're done learning. You have to just keep going and constantly evolve everything that you've been working on. You have to keep honing those skills for one, but then stretching yourself. And it goes back to the whole idea of getting outside your comfort zone, because sometimes it's just the easier path, obviously, is just to kind of sit back and be like, all right, I've read all the books, I know all the stuff. But that really gets into a point of ego, and you got to let your ego go and accept that we don't have all the answers all the time. We're going to make mistakes often, and it's going to happen. And we just got to keep going and learn and just keep chipping away, being better versions of ourselves every day. And we're going to backslide too, and that's okay. We're going to make mistakes, but then we just got to keep learning, keep growing.
Yeah, both organizationally, we've heard chiefs from, all over the country, both coasts, talk about, what organizations need to do to get better, what individuals need to do to get better. And I think it starts with losing the ego, reflecting on what you're doing well, what you're not doing well, and then just figuring that out. And it starts with, obviously the honesty aspect of it. And all the leaders we've talked to, right? We have had Frank Lee. We've had, Chief Salka. We've had Josh Waldo. We've had Jason Coy. We've had. I can't even name them all. I shouldn't have started the list because I'm gonna miss so many people. We just had Gordon Graham on. There's so many people that have given a lot of their time and energy to trying to make the fire service better. And we've just been beneficial to kind of summarize and hear, just probably the surface of what they've done. But we have a little theme here that you created. I believe a little game
Yeah,
for me. Is that right?
we're
Yeah.
gonna play a little game. We're gonna play the Who Said It game. I don't have a lot of confidence right now, considering that you can't remember who's been on the show. So I'm not sure how you're gonna be able to remember who said these things. But most of these things are really tapped into some of the themes that we've just seen over and over again with folks that just, they might say it in different ways. And you never know when one person's perspective on something is going to be the thing that clicks with somebody. And so there's a lot of good quotes here I'm going to throw at you, and we're going to see how you're doing, Aaron. You ready
Oh
for
boy.
this?
And it's not that I can't remember our guests. I remember them all. It's just to list them without having a little bit of multiple choice there is tough. A lot of them, in true honesty, have become mentors and friends because I've still
Mhm.
kept, we still keep in touch with them just to see what they're doing. And and we get some feedback from other shows about, what they heard. And it's been very encouraging and motivating. So I'm not too confident myself, but let's give this a shot.
All right. First up, let's see here. All right, this is good. This one ties into what we were just talking about in terms of tips for continuous improvement. All right, the quote is, "Don't give up. It feels overwhelming. Just keep going. And if you screw it up, start over again."
Hmm.
I think we need Jeopardy music now.
Do we have? Is there multiple choice on any of this? Because there's quite a few of that, but I mean, frankly, Chief Lee is the one that comes to mind at first, but it's because he's just uh, prevalent in my head.
Here's
Um,
another one from the same person. "You have to give early, easy wins." It's an
oh,
early podcast, an early show, one of our faves. She is on the Fire Rescue One editorial board. There's two clues in there.
it's not Dr. Zemlock, is it? No.
Dr. Sarah Janke. You're on the
Sarah
right.
Janke. Yeah,
You're on
yeah.
the
Okay,
right road with the doctor.
Doctor. Yeah,
Yes.
she also was our very first like just candid, "Hey, can I swear and just be real?"
she
Conversation, which
yeah,
I love it.
yeah,
Which that was my fault because I started that conversation and forgot to say, "Yeah, we're just record." It's the whole thing is we just talk. Um, and so she's just dropping some bombs. I loved it. Yes.
yeah, yeah.
By
All
the way, if
right.
you haven't heard that episode, please go back to it. And there's a lot there. I remember her whole point about don't give up. And if you talk about health and wellness in the fire service, and you think, God, have we made any progress? Well, just think about smoking. Smoking used to be really highly accepted in firehouses all over the place, and now it's not. Like, so we have made improvements, health and wellness, the cancer side. The initiatives have really helped out, at least the awareness and there's some other highlights of that particular podcast, but it was really
Yeah.
great kind of to sit down and talk with her.
And bonus question, can you think of what is unique about Sarah in the context of the Better Every Shift universe? What makes Sarah unique?
Well, her husband's a Badger, so that just makes her good. Although,
She's
she's
just good
husband,
people just
he's
because of
just
that.
good
Yeah.
people, right? So I'm sure
Yeah.
he lifts her up. But we did talk about one of the first Down syndrome Ironman. Is that right? Like, remember we talked about that particular um,
There
story, which I've watched numerous times and bawled a little bit and got a little
yeah.
motivated. I do remember that. Um, is
I'll
that what you're
I'll give
thinking?
it I'll give it to you. She is the only one, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, who has been on the podcast twice. because she was
Oh yeah,
also in the Better Every Shift Challenge episode with Dr. Lori Moore Merrill and Eric Skablix and Brian Frieders.
that's right.
So
Yep.
I believe that they are still going head to head,
They are.
doing
They
Smack
I
Talk.
did
And
check in with them, and they are still evaluating. They're on like another run of that. They've all made some pretty good strides. But they're going to continue probably all the way through till November. So we'll have to get them back on. But
yeah.
yes, she is a gosh, I forgot about that. Yeah, very good. All right.
All right,
What
next
else you
up.
got?
Quote, quit being passive. That's not leadership. Leadership is going against the grain, pushing hard till you meet that resistance. Then you push a little bit more at every level, at a level they can absorb.
That sounds like Chief Saddleback.
Oh, you got it. Nailed
Yep.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So again, comfort
I've
zone, you
yep.
know.
Chief has been a great mentor for me over the years. He's one that really got me started in writing, and we've had some great conversations like that, and I could just hear him in my head there about some of my endeavors. Just say, you just keep pushing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
got one. Boom. Where's the
Boom.
ding? We need if we make it to another 40, when we make it to 80 or 100 episodes, can we at least get some sound effects?
Oh yeah, let's get some
Yeah.
sound effects going for
All right.
sure. All right. I like this one a lot. The quote is, I love naps, bro. I love
Chief Tina
naps,
Alley.
bro. Nope.
Oh,
She did talk about sleep and the
she
importance of
did.
sleep, just like Dr. Janke and Chief Sendelbach. So sleep is another one of those consistent themes.
Yeah.
Come on. I
Was that
love
Dan or
naps,
Dan Kerrigan?
bro. Nope. Bro, come on. The
It was a
bro's gotta.
bro thing. Oh,
Who's
we're
our
all
most animated guest?
well, Dr. Ashby.
Maybe.
You're like, oh yeah, yeah.
May-
Uh,
Maybe. Okay, she goes head to head with this person.
oh, Eric. No, Caballero
No,
or sorry, yeah, Chris Caballero. No.
not Chris Cebollero. No.
Oh, all right.
Also, the only person to bring a dog on the podcast.
Oh, Jace Patton.
Yes.
That's
There you
right.
go.
Yep.
I love naps, bro.
I love naps, bro. Yeah. By the way, if you haven't heard him, we had him on right away too, and um, we didn't use some of the shots, but like that's when I was trying to do the thumbnails for him, and there was a couple of his animated faces with me just laughing. So I have some of those that maybe I'll try to post or I'll show. This is great. It's just facial gestures, but yeah, naps are great, by the way. So
Yep.
Jason Patton, that you got to listen to that episode. That was highly entertaining. Talked about how he really talk about comfort zone, right? Like that's somebody
Mhm.
that was not very comfortable speaking, and has really just built himself up to be a kind of social media advocate, for us in the fire service. And he's all about self improvement as well. And it was great to talk to him and kind of dig deep into, get underneath that um that persona about just being kind of goofy. There's a lot
Yeah.
of passion behind it. So
Well, I think
oof.
that his episode is really good because it shows it's kind of surprising, right? You if you know Jason and you follow him on Fire Department Chronicles and watch his videos, you would just assume that he is just, another Energizer bunny and an extrovert. But he's like, no, I'm an introvert. Like this was hard for me to get outside my comfort zone. He told a hilarious story about the first time he had to do, I think it was CPR training,
CPR training, yeah.
and just kind of just basically passed out and was just like, I can't
Can't
do
do it.
this, and now you think of him and it's like, that can't be the same guy, right?
Right.
But another thing that was surprising, and one of our quotes here that he said was, one of the biggest lessons I had to learn in life is everything cannot be 0 to 100. You have to find moderation, even if it's 30 seconds of whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's just ties in so well. It's just the reminder of kind of chipping away. We can't just do it all immediately. We've got to prioritize, because
Yeah.
otherwise we're going to burn out. That's
There's
that's
more than one speed to this career.
yeah.
And, and I can relate. Like, I think you and I actually had talked about this and the first time we did just a one-on-one with us. Like, this doesn't come easy to me either. I mean, it takes a lot of energy and, um, yeah, it's not who I am all the time. That's for darn sure. But
Mhm.
you know, there are times where I think, you know, my role in this is I'm not very smart, but I hang out with smart people and I hang out with people that have really good contacts, and if I can try to place those people together to make the fire service better, that's really kind of I feel like my role in it. So I can relate with how he feels.
Yeah.
Especially now the persona for him is he's got to be on always on his game. And
Yeah.
and that's tough. It takes a lot of energy, but
Yeah.
you know, it's it's goes back to the theme of being uncomfortable and trying to improve.
Yeah. Well, on the burnout theme a little bit,
Oof.
this one connects a bit. All right. Who said nobody ever has it printed on their headstone? I should have spent more time at work.
Well, there's a couple that could have said that. Because I've talked to Chief Selko about that as well, but I don't think it was said in this particular context. Um, is that right? Was that right?
Yep. That was
Hey,
Salsa.
yes, yes,
Go with your gut, buddy.
yeah, I was right, Chief Salka. I've again have been so fortunate to be surrounded by so many good people, and he's one. And I had the opportunity to watch him, and I actually have a small video of him presenting to a group of brand new recruits at a conference. They were volunteering, and I kind of followed as just as a fly on the wall. And he took time out of his day, at these conferences. He's a pretty premier speaker, and he goes from, signing books to doing whatever. Um, and someone said, "Hey, Chief, there's a bunch of new recruits next door. Do you mind saying something to him?" And he walked right up there, and for probably 15, 20 minutes, he just kind of told some stories. And at the end, he said two things that I regret in my career. One is that I didn't take better care of myself. And number two is that I didn't take more time with my family. So that's kind of where that resonates with me. And I thought the great words to live by, especially for somebody as like, you think he's all about the fire service, but for him to say, no, folks, what's important is yourself and those around you as well, especially family. So it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Highly recommend another one. Like if people haven't listened to our other 40 or 39, they certainly should because there's some damn good stuff on there. Makes me want to go back.
If you don't say so yourself.
If I don't
Right.
say so myself, if I wasn't there,
All right. This one is going to be a softball, but I think it's a perfect tie in to what we're talking about with Salka. You have to figure out what works best for your family. As a firefighter, we are always talking about serving others, helping others, being selfless, but you got to be that way at home too. You're not at the firehouse, you're not in charge.
mm,
And if you need a little extra help, the next line was Terry will say, "You're not the chief here."
well, there's a couple that,
Two family episodes. You got
yeah,
two, it's a
yeah.
50-50 here.
Oh, that's Chief Goldfeder.
Yep.
Yep. You're not the chief here. Yep.
Terry will say, "You're not the chief here," which
Yes.
was like my favorite line,
Oh,
maybe from all of our podcasts, because it's just too funny. Because you can just imagine husbands and wives getting into it at home. You're not the chief here.
yeah. He made it very clear that he does not like he's she puts him in his place. I think keeps him in his place.
Terry's awesome.
Yeah, and that episode having Brian on talking, with his dad, who's a very prominent chief, just about the fire service in general and how to differentiate family and the fire service and their situation is difficult because it's what they're all about, you know. And I'm on some committees with Brian with FRCE and National Fallen Firefighters Foundation, and you know, we have some great conversations just about drawing that line, and sometimes being able to identify when you got to just shut it down, you know.
Yeah, and we asked Billy about that. Like, are there times when you hear what's going on at Brian's firehouse or something, and you just like you've got decades of experience and you want to jump in and help, or or vice versa, like Brian wants to tap his dad for advice, and there's going to be a line there. There's going to be a point where it's totally normal, acceptable. You talk to each other about stuff, and then there's going to be a point where it's like, okay, I can't have my dad picking up the phone and calling my chief, you know. And of
Well,
course
as
that has not happened, but you know what
no,
I'm saying.
no, no. And and sometimes Brian just doesn't. He'll is you know, and here's where I'll listen to him, and then I'll just hang up the phone and do it my way. When I
Yeah,
talk to my dad, he knows that, you know. But and as Chief said, he's like, I got to let him do those things. You
yeah.
know, it's gotten easier over the years, I think, but it was great just to get insight between that relationship, you know, between family and you know, as we found with Gordon Graham, how deep, you know, him and Billy and how that whole relationship started, you know, the secret list. And I mean, it's just great.
hmm Yeah.
Great interview there.
The Fire Store, equipping protectors with passion. That's how we operate, and it's how we live. We understand that having the right gear can mean the difference between life and death. Our goal is to get you the gear you need, when you need it, at prices you can afford. Visit us at thefirestore.com for everything but the truck. Now, back to the show.
All right, next up, quote, even in my department, if we don't do a formal after action review, any firefighter worth his salt is going to go back to the firehouse, and that company is talking about not only their actions, but the actions of everybody else on scene.
Did I mention him earlier?
hmm
Yeah, I think that's Chief Leib.
You're right,
Yeah,
Chief Leib.
Chief Leib. Yeah, and he has been, and I've had some great conversations with Chief Leib outside of that particular episode too about you know, he's been in some very interesting calls, and you know, his role has maybe changed a little bit, but his passion is just as as kind of thriving as it ever has been. And he gives some great information uh, about his calls. And then I thought one of the most interesting parts was he'll read something and call that chief and say, "How did you guys respond? How did that work? How could you get
Yeah,
better with it?" He tells a story about you know, the escalators where uh, they had an escalator fire, and he didn't know anything about escalators, so he decided to ask you know, some of the engineers about them. How do you cut them? How do you operate? And then, of course, 2 weeks later, they had a call where someone's foot was caught in an escalator.
yeah,
Just that passion for improvement is kind of what started this whole thing. He's our very first episode, and I think set the tone for what we stand for.
yeah,
And so it was great to just listen to that. You know, this is a guy who's doing some of the most extensive and intricate calls. You know, being IC on them or safety officer, and to listen to him just say, "Hey, I'm humble enough to understand I don't know it all, and I have to reach out to get better." And that's one of the, you know, I think, you know, I'll be 100% honest, man. I didn't know if I could do this. Like, you're just like, "Hey, host this." I don't like, what does that mean? You know, these are some of the biggest names in the fire service. You know, there's a lot of times I'm like, what am I doing here? But I look at it as I get an opportunity to make myself better. So selfishly, um, it's been great. And that was one where I was just listening to him go, holy cow, this is great stuff. You know, hopefully people are taking what I'm taking from it, you know? So
yeah. Well, and you kind of touched on this, but I think we should underline the point here that, we had talked about the theme of this show being better every shift. And then you saw Frank speak at a conference, and he was basically talking about the same stuff about being better and continuous improvement. And and you called it, you were like, he's got to be our first guest, and it's like, it was perfect. He was the right person to launch the podcast with us because his values and everything that he talks about just so aligns with what so many of the folks that we've had on the show have talked about in terms of just wanting to be the best leader they can be and also parking their ego at the door and acknowledging we don't know everything. We got to
Mhm.
keep going. We got to keep learning. So
Yeah. And
good
even
call
more
on
so
that.
than just than leader, I think just individual person,
Yeah.
whether it's health,
Yep.
wellness, family man or woman, just even outside the fire service, just trying to be a good person, and I
Yeah.
think um, we got into that a little bit with um, a number of almost everyone, right? Like that was the theme, and I think that's why people are so seems to be receptive to come on, is because we've had a couple people say, I love this theme, I love this topic, I
Mhm.
love the title, um, and again, that's why it's been so fun. So
Yeah.
yeah, you got any more? What do you got?
All right. Next one up. It's sort of the reverse of this in a way. The quote is, I have complete empathy and understanding for people who have fallen deep into complacency because I have been there in my career.
Mm.
So this person told some stories about basically kind of doing a 180 in their career. They were the person who was kind of resting on their laurels, maybe pointing fingers elsewhere, just wasn't fired up, and then really turned it around. And now speaks on this topic and is very motivational
Oh,
and inspirational.
Dr. Griffith, right?
Nope, nope.
Dr.
Wait,
Griffin? No.
not Dr. Griffin, but he had a lot of similar points.
Yeah. Um, we're talking about
Yeah,
Dr. Dave.
David. Yeah, David
Yep.
has definitely had. He has a very unique and similar story based on what happened with the Sofa Superstore fire and the firefighter he was before that incident and the firefighter he became after. Um, so you're right that he did kind of a 180 on his career as well, really digging deep to find his passion and wanting to be the firefighter who knows everything.
Mm,
Have I stumped you?
give me another hint on this one.
He was also sort of similar to Jason Patton. He talked about how, this was stretching him outside his comfort zone. He's an introvert. But now he's like, this motivational speaker in a lot of ways.
Oh, is
Who
that
really,
Corley Moore?
yep, yep.
Yeah, great. Yep, Chief Corley Moore. Moore Fire Department, which is not named after him, but I said,
Yeah,
hey, if it is, right? Yeah, the 9 L's.
yes.
Yeah, that was a he finally somebody who had like you were saying, I don't know how you survived that one between his energy and my energy, but
I had to take a nap afterwards for sure. It was like,
17 cups of coffee later, it's like, you know, um, the living in a van down by the river SNL skit,
yep,
times
yep,
two, right? Between us
yeah,
two, but,
yeah, yeah.
really intense guy. Chief Moore was, very insightful and his book, The 9 L's, uh, I, just him reviewing them and where they came from, they all came
Mhm.
from the heart really. And it's just kind of, um, worked its way that they were all L's that he was talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, right. Like how to beat complacency and stay motivated. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next book on that one. Hopefully we
Yeah.
make it in that. But
All right. Speaking of naps, got another good one for you here. Quote, I remember when I was new, I would never tell anybody if I was going home to take a nap because I didn't want anybody to think I was lazy.
that sounds like Chief Dean Alley.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nailed it. She was,
She she was awesome with that. Like I've had some great
mhm,
discussions about her about more about sleep, and actually got some research that's coming out. She's dedicating a lot of her time to that, and obviously mental health. Wasn't she the one that said, "quote unquote" therapy is awesome?
oh man, that was going to be my next one. Yes. I was
Was
going to
it?
try and trick you.
Yes. Therapy is awesome, and that was another theme. I think a lot of the people that we had on the show were, hey, yeah, I think everybody needs it. I think in this um, in the realms of what we see and do, to not think that it affects you in your relationships, and who you are is ridiculous,
Yeah. Well, she was great too because she told this story about, I think it was a newer firefighter maybe on the crew who was just very open about, oh, I need a break or I need to go home, take a nap or whatever. And she said that basically she felt like the younger generation coming in is much better about setting boundaries and not worrying about these stigmas, whether it's attached to taking a nap or seeing a therapist or anything like this, because like they've been reading all this material, they've been listening to these podcasts, and they're absorbing the information and putting themselves, like prioritizing themselves as well, not to the detriment of the fire department, but making sure that they're taking care of their health and well-being as well.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think she made some really great points there.
Well, and then you could take, Chief John Oates on top of that and talking about,
Mhm.
stereotyping millennials, um,
Yep.
and talking about the different generations. Now, of course, some people are probably listening to this going, well, they just don't work as hard but I think it was Chief Salka that actually said, look, I don't know how to use Google Maps and they don't know how to use a chainsaw. So you know what we need to do? Teach each other, uh,
Exactly.
and work ethic, I think also in some cases can come down to accountability. And,
Mhm.
we kind of talked behind the scenes on some uh, episodes about that. And I think that's a place where we'll try to get some more guests on to talk more about accountability and where that fits into, the future of the fire service and leadership too. So
Yeah.
it's opening the door for a lot of other conversations.
Yeah.
Um,
All right. I've got two more for you. Can you
okay.
handle two more?
This is good. I think I'm about, a little over 500 on these. All right.
You're doing pretty good. Yeah.
Okay.
I got to say. All right. Who said I crush ice cream and tequila like nobody's business and I got
I
a
did
stack?
that. That was me,
Uh,
wasn't it?
I had to try and trick you at some point, right? The
That's
end of that is I don't like burpees. I don't like running.
oh yeah.
That's you.
Yeah. Yeah. Did I say that with Jim and Dan, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Jim Kerrigan, or Dan Kerrigan and Jim Moss, which was a great one because, you know, for those that probably don't, I don't know if they know, like that's usually what I speak on is fitness, health, and wellness. That's kind of where I started writing, and lately it's been more into culture change, individually and organizationally, kind of more about the success side, um, and that's been a great journey too because there's more to just fitness than you know burpees or reps or bench press, and over the years I think that's where I personally have I made some mistakes by just going, hey, it's all about fitness, fitness, fitness. Well, as I get older and maybe a little wiser, there's more to it. There's stress. There's the sleep deprivation. There's the nutrition side of things that all kind of comes into play. So it was great to talk to those two, just about big picture things, and I think where we're going with health and wellness in the fire service. So yeah, yep, that goofy dude said that. That was me, and it's true. But I don't do them together. Well, I probably have done them together, but I don't do it that very often, and it's all part of kind of a bigger picture, right?
Well, I
So
think we need a video of you crushing ice cream while taking a shot and doing burpees at the same time.
together,
Feel like that would
uh,
be a good promo for the show, but we'll talk on
show,
that later.
yeah, we could talk about a little promo image for this one, yeah,
All right, the last one I think encapsulates a lot of what we've been talking about. I'm going to put two quotes together here. If you're doing things the same way you were 5, 7, 10 years ago, you fell behind. That's just the way things are in our profession. Do something every day that's going to make the department just a little bit better. Before you know it, you look back and a lot of those little bits are turning into really big strides that sometimes we don't even realize we've made.
boy, that could fit into a lot of our,
Hmm.
yes, Chief Freeman.
Nope, but good
Oof.
guess. I'll give you a hint. There was talk of, oh gosh, was it like Montana tuxedo or something. I can't remember.
Oh, it's either Jason Coy or Josh Waldo, I think, right?
Josh Waldo. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, Montana tuxedo. Chief, he's another story too. Like he told a little bit about he had a kind of an eye-opening moment when he was, kind of just
Hmm.
going through the motions of his career and didn't really know where he wanted to go. And
Yeah.
fitness kind of got out of hand. And, he had a call where he was a little bit scared
Yeah.
and, changed it around. And so for those that are listening, if that's you right now, if you're in a position where you're like, hey, I don't know, I'm 20 pounds or 30 pounds overweight and don't really know where I'm going, just take a step forward. Because you're listening
Yeah.
to this podcast, so you obviously give a damn. And that was a
Mhm.
great kind of motivating story.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that one really kind of nails it because in his story overall, he has several different elements that have happened in the course of his career that kind of put him on this path. And now he's is it the first VP of the IAFC,
I
or
yes.
first, yeah, I'm going to say his title wrong. First VP, first president, um, for the
Next up,
IAFC.
I don't
Next,
even know. Like
yeah,
I can't keep
next in
track of it.
line, after Chief Butler,
He's on the board. He's in
and
the
he
game.
is
He's
on
in the
our
room.
board.
He's in the room. That's all that matters. You
Yeah.
know. Yeah. Speaking of what's in the room, transitioning a little bit with one of the projects that you worked on recently is what the What Firefighters Want survey for 2023. And I think we had some great episodes that mentioned that. And the biggest theme being stress, right? Like going
Yeah.
forward, obviously, we know in the fire service, one of the things that we have issues with is recruitment. And then I think
Mhm.
what was eye opening and hopefully a lot of people took note of was the fact that I believe 43% of the fire service or 43% of the people that responded were considering leaving the fire service. 47% were looking at changing departments. Over 60% said the stress was affecting their health and wellness, overall health and wellness. And um, correct me if I'm wrong, almost something like 20 to 30% said it was affecting the way that they would provide service. Is that right? Am I close on
Yeah.
those stats?
Yes. Yeah, you're very close. Yeah, 42% considering leaving the fire service due to their stress levels, 46% considering leaving their fire department due to their top stressors, the least satisfying parts of the job. And Ben Thompson talked about this on the podcast and in his article about it, basically saying that he found this one statistic to be unacceptable, that 32%, 32, 33% who said, yeah, their stress level is negatively impacting the quality of service that they provide, which is huge. All of those stats are huge when you really think about it. If you're a leader of a fire department and you're aware that one third to half of your members are having these thoughts, um, that's got to be a wake up call for leadership. And you might not have all the answers, but start somewhere. Start asking questions and listening to your members. There's a lot of good information in the What Firefighters Want special coverage that includes free text answers from the respondents. It's not just, scale of 1 to 10 stuff, but people's actual quotes saying, this is what I
Commented.
want to do less of. This is what I want to do more of. This is what's stressing me out. This is what I need help with. And we've got a lot of that listed out. So if you haven't already seen it, I know I'm a broken record on this, but firerescue1.com/ what firefighters want. And
And
there is a ton of good content.
you'll leave that in the show notes,
Yeah,
correct?
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. I thought one of the great highlights that I took from that wasn't necessarily about, obviously these are staggering results from the standpoint of if you're not in leadership and you're not paying attention to this, you must. This is a kind of like, hey, this is a real red flag. Number one, but number two, one thing I thought that Bent mentioned was, look, we can't always just point at leadership on it. Some of the things that we do add stress to our lives. And one thing that you just said is we got to stop piling it on, meaning like, hey, if the toilet bowl is flushing, sometimes you got to just lift up on the handle and go, you know what? We still got an opportunity to make an impact in the lives of those around us. We
Mhm.
still can provide service. We still get to do this job, which the survey still says we love doing. We love doing the job.
Yeah.
Um, and sometimes we need to break from that kind of environment where we're just all of a sudden just piling. And I think one of the biggest takeaways I got from that was we can let people vent, but then there's a point where we got to change our mindset a little bit and be grateful for the opportunity and talk about some of the positive things that are around us. And so I
Well,
loved
there's
how he framed it that way. Like, yeah, the
mhm.
stats are telling us this. Yeah, we know that we're in a situation where we really want more proactive leadership, but there are things I can do,
Yeah,
and there
exactly.
and one quick thing is let's just change the way we're thinking about the situation in our environment. So I thought that was really cool. Um,
Yeah, there's a personal accountability element to everything because let's face it, we're not always going to be able to lead up. Candace Ashby, she talked about leadership from the bottom up, and that is great in theory. And there's a lot that we can actually do, but there's going to be certain things that we're not able to at our level impact, you know. But that's that's the point, right? Control or take action in areas that you actually can control, right? There might be leadership that's kind of existing in a vacuum, a lack of leadership. So what can you do with your crew? What can you do for yourself? And I think that agency just really helps people, it helps shift that mindset because it can get really easy to spiral
oh yeah.
amid a lack of leadership. But even just trying to take control where you can and kind of own your own destiny in whatever little way that you might be able to control, I think that can work wonders for just kind of getting in the right headspace and also making sure you're not bringing down your crew as well. Especially if you're a company officer or chief officer level, you want to show up and make sure that your folks know that you're there for them too.
And that's one of the things, honestly, I have been working to try to do is not be that kind of person to pile on. Trying to listen more and then, hey, but it's a great day to provide some service. We get to ride in these red rigs and people wave at us and we still get to, um, we're empowered to help people in their moment of need. And that's a very powerful thing. One of my um, uh, retired lieutenants in my department said that. He said that we are bestowed this honor of of people letting us come into their household in their moments of need and helping us. And that's a very powerful thing that we need to remember that we get to do and
Yeah,
make an impact. And so I think, personally, that's what I've been trying to work on is trying to listen more and try to just be a more positive influence on those around me. And am I doing okay with it? I don't know. I hope so. It helps to be able to talk to you and these wonderful guests, um, and which I wanted to just mention too. A lot of our guests, along with being on the podcast, have said, "Hey, I love what you guys are doing. Is there any other way I can help out?" And you've recruited them, I think, haven't you, to be members of FR1 board and to help advise us on this journey. Is that correct?
well, yes, I don't want to give the mistaken impression that they're just like beating down my door asking to, you know come sign up, but everyone has been enthusiastic when I have reached out to them and asked them if they'd like to be a member of our editorial advisory board. We already have amazing board in place. They are still in place, but we have just expanded the board. So a lot of the names that we mentioned on today's show, um, as of a matter of weeks ago, have joined our board, and we're just thrilled to have them. If you'll humor me to run down the list very quick, uh, Chief Dina Ali, Chief Rocco Alvaro, Dr. Reggie Freeman, Dr. Sarah Janke, Chief Daryl Jones, Chief John Oates, Chief Tim Sunnelbach, Dr. Jennifer Taylor, and Chief Josh Waldo. So, welcome to the editorial advisory board. We are thrilled to have you, and I thank you in advance for letting me tap into your brains, into your knowledge and your contacts, and so we can continue to do great things.
And speaking of great things, we also need to hear from you and want to hear from you guys, the listeners.
Yes.
We want to know what you want to hear. We kind of got an idea through the survey, obviously, of what firefighters want, but we also want to know what firefighters want on the Better Every Shift podcast. So, with that in mind, please reach out to us. Send us an email at bettereveryshift@firerescue1.com. You can also reach out via the social media outlets, and or even if you have a contact of mine, send me a message about some of the things that you'd like to hear and see going forward with the show. It really is a show that's for the fire service, and we want to provide you with the guests that you want to talk to. We want to provide you with the topics maybe other people don't want to talk about. I have no problems talking about them. You know, we had mentioned earlier about talking about mental health. We'll talk about fitness. We'll talk about leadership. We've really addressed that a lot, and we hope to continually engage in that. But also, maybe some things outside of the fire service. Personally, I believe that a lot of the things that are affecting us, from recruitment to leadership, we need to look outside of the fire service more and rely on outside organizations that are training the next generation of leaders effectively. Communication styles. We really need to just stop, kind of doing things the same way and look at how we become more efficient. Not only from you know uh, personnel issues, but leadership. And so if you have ideas on things outside of the fire service that you think could be beneficial for us, we're all about it. Again, when I first started doing this, I just said, hey, I don't want any restrictions on it. And they said I can even swear, but I promised my mom I wouldn't swear as much. So I think I'm doing okay with that. Um, but we cannot thank you guys enough for listening, and the support has been very overwhelming. We know that we have more than 2 listeners, which is, I think more the goal, right, Janelle? But lastly, though, I kind of indulged on what I've been working on to try to get better. How about yourself?
Oh boy, I think I need to listen to our podcast after serving as a co-host on the podcast, because I feel like so much of what we talk about is stuff I need to start instituting in my own life. I believe I may have talked about this on a past show, which again underscores the point that you're going to start things and you're going to fail and then you have to try and start them again. So that's where I'm at right now. I actually, look, I have props for you. I have a habit tracker calendar that I
Oh,
had
yes.
started earlier in the year and then stopped because I was not doing well with my habits, but I'm going to start again. So I look back at where I was, and the habits that I was trying to do were going to bed early, trying to get better sleep, taking a break during the day from work because I have a
Hmm.
tendency to just sit here for like 10 hours and not really move. Um, Drinking water, hydration, important, and also stretching was a big one
Yeah.
because I did hurt my back a couple years ago and it's been a source of uh, pain for me. And so I need to be better about doing my stretches because that will create a cascading effect, I think, health wise. Won't be in pain, going on walks or whatever all those other good things are. So I'm trying to do those little things to chip away to build a healthier lifestyle overall.
Well, on episode number 80, whenever we do this again, just you and I, we're going to check in and see how you're doing with that. But
Okay.
you're right; it's a journey.
Yeah.
Um, the process, like you had mentioned as we began the show, it's a process of it. There's no end game or end stage with it.
Mhm.
But it's just trying to figure out what can I do today to take a step forward? What can I do
Yeah.
to maybe elevate those around me a little bit? And I think through this and all your efforts, you're doing that. So from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for the opportunity. To all of you guys and gals and moms that have been listening to 40 of these podcast episodes, thanks from the bottom of both my heart and Janelle's heart. Again, please give us some feedback. We love hearing from you. We do want to hear what else you want us to do on the show, what topics and guests. Reach out, better every shift at firerescue1.com. Please rate and review the show. You can watch this episode on YouTube. If you're listening to us just through one of the podcast platforms, make sure you go to that YouTube page and you can leave a comment there. And I guess I will leave this with a very emphatic: make sure that you learn something, do something, and share something to make you and those around you better every shift. Thank you guys so much for listening.